urban social renovation. That is a good question, a good theme. And I will try to be a good pupil. And I will try to answer to the question or to show to you a lot of projects linked to this theme. I did a very special cocktail. I never did that since many years. So it's a lot of projects. I will not explain too much, but we have many pictures also. I will begin perhaps to say some general ideas about the actual situation. Actual situation of architecture and architects. I think we are in a situation worst and worst. And we have to change that probably. We have to fight to change that. Why? Because the social role of the architect is not the same than 20 or 30 years ago. For young people, it's difficult to feel, perhaps. But for other architects, they know that. Initially, an architect had a real responsibility in front of a client. He has a power with the contractor to do the choice of the contractor, to advise the client. And the architect was really the responsible for every people in the city, of the organization of the city, of the architecture, of the urban planning, of the development on the city, on this side or the other side, of the landscape. Now, if we are honest, in 90% of cases, architects arrive in a situation already decided by technocracy, generally, technostructure. And every people think he could be an architect. And the main important decision on the territory are done at the political level, are done with the Ministry of Development of the Territory, are done with after the urban planning and now urbanism is not architecture. That is one of the inventions of the 20th century. But I think architecture exists at every scale to organize a space. And when you take a decision linked to the sensitivity of a territory, of a program, the social role of this actor is architect. And the people doing this decision now, taking this decision now, are not architects. And the architects are very weak and weaker. And weaker because also of the organization of the society and the hierarchy of the functions. And it touched directly the teaching, of course, enseignement, and the cost of an architect student is lower than the cost of an engineer student in France. I don't know what is the situation in Spain, and I don't talk about the cost of the main people decided of the policy in the dans le droit, comment on dit,
rights.
The right is the droit? No.
Law.
The law. And also for all the technocrats who decide for the technical decisions on the ministry and so on. In France, like École Nationale d'Administration and so on. An architect in France is a very low cost. And an event was not so positive also in France. I don't know what is the situation here. But the teaching was really weaker after 68, and the selection was totally evacuated. And we are now in this situation. And I think we have to reconquer the right to do architecture. And it's not a question, what is the name of, une question corporatist, the same name? It's not a corporatist question. I don't care to defend architects. I want to defend people doing this role. You can call them architect or another name. No, it's very important for other people in the society, not for the architect themselves. Of course, for the architect themselves also, they have to be at the height of this responsibility to reconquer also this culture, because we don't need people with the traditional knowledge of 1 century ago. Now we know we need people with a transcultural teaching, transcultural knowledge. And we need poets, we need people knowing a lot of things in literature, in art, in philosophy. We need people able to take decisions on the main direction, with the main objective and the highest level of decision, and the highest level and deeper level of consequences of the work of organization, of space, of landscape, of street, and what also with all the mutation of the heritage. All of that is cultural, transcultural profile. It's not a technical profile. So for all this reason, we lost this power. Nobody took really this place. They took places on different directions. But now, nobody has a consciousness of something very important in the evolution of the life of the future generations. Is the quality of the life, not only on the technical point of view of ecology, but on the pleasure to be somewhere with inside, in the apartments, outside, in the culture of a city, with the development of this culture. All these parameters are the key parameters. So that is, for me, an important statement at the beginning. I will show to you different projects to show what was done, what I proposed with this wheel, the wheel I explained since 5 minutes, and to show also that it's not a question of scale automatically. Of course, consequences are bigger with a scale. But even with small projects, we can go in the way of an urban regeneration, social urban regeneration. This is possible with small projects and with large projects. So now I begin to run, I show to you the projects. Je ne sais pas ce que je fais là, mais je fais quoi là? Ça bouge pas là, hein? Là? Technical problem. Là? Là? Non? Non? Si je suis en face, c'est pas très bien déjà. I begin with a very important project in Paris, that is the development on the left edge of the river, of the Seine. It's done by the official Office of Development in Paris, Atelier Parisien d'Urbanisme, the perfect technocratic system. And they propose to develop this huge neighborhood. I think it's almost 2 million of square meters, something like this. You recognize the National Library in the middle. Qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? Je veux aller en sens inverse. Voilà, c'est ça. Voilà. You recognize the National Library designed by Dominique Perrault, and all this wonderful design for all the neighborhood. You can recognize the heritage of Haussmannian blocks or something like this. That is the work of the APUR, Atelier Parisien d'Urbanisme. Non. Il faut que j'apprenne comment me servir tout ça. The same project with the river and the library. And at one moment, they change of elected people, and they ask to the architect what they have to do, and I proposed a competition to change the meaning of the neighborhood, because with what you saw initially, no transition exists with buildings, important buildings around, like the station, Austerlitz station, the landmark of the hospital of La Salpêtrière, and also all the archaeology of the railway. Here you see the scale of the green spaces in Paris on the park. And what you see here, that is a proposal I did to create on this area, where there was a lot of fight with the association because APUR could not find, with this program, a little square of 50 meters by 50 meters for green area. It's unbelievable. Huh? That is the case at this epoch. And I propose a kind of central park on almost 2 kilometers long and 300 meters width. You recognize it here. You recognize that we are approximately at the scale of the main big spaces, green spaces in Paris. That is a plan of APUR, and you recognize only very small green spaces, and this one is in the patio of the library and nothing around. That is a connection of that with the other spaces. That is the different street with a balance between existing building and all the transition with existing buildings and new buildings. It's like a mirror, right? You open the street like this. And in the middle of the park, I proposed what I called castles for different offices and institutions, all of that. And to work also with the industrial archaeology of the dock on the river. That is exactly the same transition with other Parisian parks. And I propose to have a very strong, alive street, what I call la rue des Enseignes, a street of the... Les enseignes, les...
Comme les drapeaux,
non? Non, les...
Advertising.
Advertising, it's not the... No, not the same word. When I don't know one English word, you don't know also. So it's a big problem. So you recognize all of that here, and you have a kind of perspective of that, because all these new developments are completely dry. all the development of the administration, everything is zoning, is apartments, retail in another place, offices in another place. You never can find what is the soul of the city. Never. You recognize the river and the border of the park. And that was the scenario. All of that is not architecture in the way of the architecture of the buildings, you understand that. It's the urban strategy. When you do an urbanism, what they call urbanism, we have to do that like this, not like a potato like this with a density 1.2 and with the same altimetry always at the same level. It's ridiculous. When you do a scenario like this, after you can do another architecture for the detail. That is the castle I talked. We use some ones. That is the integration, the new integration of the station, and the transition with La Salpêtrière. So just to show, I don't know if you begin to feel that we don't do the same work. When we have to study a neighborhood like this, the starting points are not the same and the targets are not the same. And we have the same number of square meters and we have all the program inside. When they saw that, they were sick. But the politicians, they are completely prisoner of that decision. That was impossible to change that. That was a competition with Renzo, with Norman Foster, with Richard Meyer, with a lot of people in the epoch. Another great decision that was to build the stadium for the World Cup of soccer, close of Saint-Denis in Paris. And this stadium now are always the same. Not in your country, not in Barcelona. I think you have an urban stadium, and you are lucky with that. But for a lot of cities, stadiums are outside. You have a huge car park like a shopping center, and no connection with what is around. And the subway arrives, every people arrive at the last moment, they run, and after every people run in the subway and really when I saw that, I said we have to propose another kind of stadium, because also this stadium, they are useful 20 times or 30 times a year. All the rest of time is empty. And it's not done in the way of the flexibility. I talk about the 90s. No connection with the city around. And what I proposed, alors on va essayer de revenir à ça. Voilà. That was a lot of streets going to Saint-Denis, and some streets linked to the stadium and other to retail and to others, with an urban neighborhood, car park very close to connect directly with the stands. And the stadium itself, you see all the surrounding with a lawn, with a huge space for the welcoming. We call the space of the screens. This space is very important because after the match, you can stay and not to go, and you don't have to go immediately to the subway. And you can stay also in the neighborhood. And the stadium is a big machine. You will see that is the space of the screens, of the big screens, when you can receive the match and you can drink and you can stay here. And that was a stadium to be in the same time Olympic Stadium and soccer and rugby and rugby playground. It's impossible because for rugby and soccer you have to be close of the lawn, And for Olympics, you need a big piste around. And so I propose to use a system, American system existing, sliding stand totally. So you move totally a building of 300 meters long or 200 meters long. 2 days, 1 day is done. And that is the Olympic Stadium. And you can move also the roof of the stand to have protection of sun and for the lawn also. Here you see the stand totally close of the playground, as close as possible, as with the right vision, as dense as possible also. You know what is a soccer stadium, I know that. And here, the covering stadium, you can cover also the training, the training ground on the side. And when you need to cover, you can cover one part is linked to the program inside, because you can do also, you have a stand also like a bridge, and you can have tennis area, and also we have more than 150 activities in the program. And the PSG and Canal Plus was with me because they wanted a stadium, but not a stadium of 88,000 people for an audience generally of 15,000 people, because stadium is completely empty. And what I imagine is to have, you will understand that, it's like a net, a little bit like tennis net, but more opaque, and you can put the net as the last row empty. In this case, the stadium is always full. Here is totally open, 88,000 people. Here you can do that. Réducteur de jauge, 30,000 people when you are here. So I won the competition with that. I won. That was very important for me. But Mr. Balladur wanted to become president. He wanted to pay his electoral campaign. And I was with Bouygues, a contractor, a famous contractor. And he wanted to have other contractors with him, because other contractors said, we will not pay the campaign if Bouygues has the telephone market, he had that, and the stadium. They fired me. I had 12 voices on 14 in the jury. That was not so important for me. That is important now for so many people going to this stadium. And we have a ridiculous situation. With Johnny Hallyday, for example, 70,000 people twice fired because that was storms and they cannot do the show. They could be, because the stadium, of course, they do is not covering. It's totally. They did that, and when I begin my text, I say generally, a stadium is un ashtray, is une soupière, a soup bowl, or a soucoupe volante, ovni. Ovni won. But we have no reason to do a stadium like this. So that was important, because when other people saw the stadium, mainly the Australian wanted to do Olympics 3 or 4 years later. They came to me and said, wonderful, we want exactly that. We never saw that, we want that. You have to come in the summer for workshops, for the plan mass and so on, okay. I went, I began to work. They married me with the main contractor. We were on the right way. Jacques Chirac was elected and not Balladur. But the first decision of Jacques Chirac was to do atomic tries in Mururoa Islands in front of Australia. And they telephoned to me, Jean, we are really sorry, but it's totally impossible. That is my projects of stadiums. I stopped with stadiums with that. But it's totally in the subject, because a stadium is a part of the activity of the city. It's something done for the pleasure of the people. It's not something done only to rent that to contractors and to have. I never understood really the reality of that. It's so stupid that that is life. Alors, j'en suis où là? Other project in Paris. Pourquoi je me suis trompé là encore? Qu'est-ce que je fais? Projet. Il n'y a plus d'images là. Ah, oui. Il doit manquer des images. I think I wanted to show to you the project of Apur, I think. Some images are missing. Okay. You know Les Halles in Paris, perhaps you know that. It's in the middle. Baltar built a wonderful market in the 19th century. It was demolished. That is a part of the project of Jacques Chirac and the Apur. I fight against that with other architects to do an international competition. We did not succeed. And they wanted to have a new program decided by Delanoë to redo the project done by Jacques Chirac, because this project was not correct. But they fight with the Green Party, and they were not able to give really a program. We have to know that here we are at the crossing of all the circulations of the Grand Paris, here in Châtelet. You can arrive from every spot of the metropolis in the center of Paris like this. They decided to don't create 1 square meters at the end. They wanted a garden of the 21st century, and they wanted a program for the image of Paris, of course. That is what I proposed for the garden of the 21st century. That was a garden to look at the city, to look at the city all around, to look at Pompidou, to look at the Seine, to look at the roof of Paris, to look at the Église Saint-Eustache. You know, you see the different park of Paris and the scale of Les Halles in the middle. And I propose to create a huge pavilion, a little big as the pavilion of Baltar, very high, with a garden, of course, in the base, but also like balconies in front of the landmark of Saint-Eustache, and coming up on the roofs. To have also a lot of green areas. They wanted that. You see the structure. And we had the largest green spaces of all the competitors. Competitors, that was Remcoulas, that was RMDV, Winimas and Manger. That is a garden itself. That is a reusing of the Bourse of Commerce, like an internal square, public square. And that is a balcony in front of Saint-Eustache. That is what we can see when you are at the top. And on 400 meters long, on the Rue Berger. I created also to have a lot of spaces of exhibition and some kinds of cultural retail, gallery and so on the length of the garden in total transparency, a little bit like the Cartier Foundation I did. That was approximately the same profile with other offices above. And when you go to the garden on the top, you could see Pompidou Center and all the landscape of Paris around. That was a little bit surrealistic. With a public pool also. Underneath a big museum on more than 12,000 square meters of exhibition. And at the border of that, a big cafe, bars to look at Paris. You can imagine when you are here. You can imagine the using of that is done to be well in the center of Paris and to have another image of the urban life in the capital. Here, that was important to research every point for the structure, very difficult to do. We did that with OVR Group. And the shopping center underneath was opened on this center with a lot of balconies and spaces all around. You see the section. So you could close also this space, you could have music during the night, you could have a very polyvalent space also. Lighting. You see the different elements of programs. But that was an urban project also linked to the streets around. To the development, sustainable way with the biodiversity and so on, connection with the other spaces. A huge work. La Fontaine des Innocents. And they wanted to have a conservatory of music also. In front of Saint Eustache, a new architecture to create another place. It's a hierarchy of different spaces, like Italian cities or something like this. A big, around the park, you have different other squares. That is a play like a stained glass with diffraction of the church, and that is a laboratory in wood, in dialogue with Saint Eustache Church. It's an expression of architecture. You have a library, like on the eating building, like shelves on a huge wall, library in the street, in the wood. All the access was studied. That was the main entrance of the subway. Je ne sais pas ce qui se passe. They built that. That is a project done now. And with the program I proposed, that was a study we did with all the other team. I proposed more than 100,000 square meters. They do a program to build nothing, only to redo what exists before. And what exists now is something without a relationship with what is around. And all the attitude to create a garden of the 21st century, to create other kind of sensations and using and so on in the center of Paris. It's not done. I don't know if we have other elements of the Apure project. Il me manque des éléments. We will come to Spain. Developers, a groupment of developers asked to me in 2004 to propose an urban strategy to the city to develop a lot of square meters in Valencia. So I had a contract with them. I did that with my partners in Barcelona and other people, with José Ribas, for example, and other people, and people of Valencia also. Oh, sorry. Perhaps you know Valencia a little bit, this harbor. The park in the former river. The huerta, the beaches. The city is not on the sea, but in the middle of the earth. Oh, ça marche pas. Something is wrong? Okay. No. Okay. I identify different territory of mutation. La Malvarosa, what is a very, very long beach. The Los Puertos. Valencia Vertical in the delta of the river. You know, they changed the bed of the river because that was a huge problem, and it's a kind of estuary now with gardens designed by Ricardo Bofill. And La Punta in the Huerta, in all the territory of the maraîchage and culture of vegetables and fruits. So that was here just studies to show how we proceed. I don't want to explain all of that. I have not enough time, but just to see the identification of different territories and the strategy done with every territory. Study on the vegetation, on the water, existing buildings, the demolition of some buildings, conservation of other ones, edification, construction, all the study of the circulation. Transportation, of course. Parking, link it to that, different perspectives and calculation of that. Lighting, events. La Malvarosa, it's a little bit sad now, but with a beautiful beach like this, you can imagine the best. So we propose different pontoons on the sea, and the front of sea with these buildings here, the pontoons on the sand, when like Les Planches in Deauville, a kind of promenade on the wood. The section with all the layers of that. All these studies are done linked to the pleasure of the life in these situations, and not only on theory of density and theory of using. And it's a melting pot of different using on the same site, of course. The colors and the perspectives, the relationship of the shadow, the trees, and the sound. You know that Valencia is a city of the fire, of the color, of the new development. Once more, it's not architecture. It's not the design, the precise design of the building, but it's the spirit of that. The cabanals, this is the mutation of this neighborhood, point by point. Los Puertos, patrimony of that. We keep a lot of buildings. I run. I don't show to you everything. I try to run, I don't succeed. Sorry. All of that was a kind of platform for the public with a lot of programs linked to the beach and to the boats. And all the system that is the Valencia vertical, that is the density we put on the delta of the arrival of the former river, with a big park at the base, and a lot of people in the heart of the city. Sometimes towers are useful for punctual density like this, to create many people using of the infrastructure already. You arrive here, and you can be exactly in the middle of the city, and you can have a formidable, wonderful park, because this snake on the former river is unbelievable. It's one of the longer parks in the world, I suppose now, and in the system. So that was interesting to put a lot of people here. I cannot explain everything, of course, but I am sure you can feel the nature of the study, and what is an urban study done with a will to create identity, singularities, to sing to the life of the people in the same time, to the patrimony, and I hope you can feel the difference with the traditional. Here we kept building and shelters. We invent other ones, like a big gate to go from the ports to the beach, and a big musical center open like a shell on the beach. Look at the ball. So all of that is a desire to create something unique, to create something positive for the using of every people coming here. Here that is the announce of the America's Cup, the market, and the vegetation, the park between the habitations. Valencia vertical, you see what I explained with the park, and the little spots are the towers. I think it's too long. We will put the water a little bit in the former bed of the river. Huge towers. That was the base, a very strong identity. I am not so sure that I am at the right place. You have to protest. I have to be on the side. Scream at the base of the tower. Buildings along the port, like boats. And La Punta, all the agriculture areas, very poor. And how to create development, housing, and how to keep also 80% of the area of that. And to create also the poetry of the field for the apartments around. And the other side, the beach also. And the port, industrial port, and the poetry of the port with the light during the night. All of that is a question of poetry, of course. And with attitude, very, very unique towers at this distance, so high in the territory, so low. It does not exist generally. It makes sense here. It doesn't make sense to do a city with that. It's complementary. And after I did the competition, I lost for the America's Cup, just for the pleasure to look at that. I proposed a kind of snake like this, not exactly what was done. Because I knew a little bit the site. Another question of regeneration, that was a subject, something in the subject of the lecture, of regeneration, social urban generation. Regeneration. Grand Paris, that was a study proposed by Nicolas Sarkozy at this epoch, to give the definition of the strategy of the evolution of the metropolis. That was totally unique in the history of urban planning. They said you don't have to follow the official document. You have to propose what is, in your opinion, positive for the development of Paris, what we have to do. Paris is almost 10 million of inhabitants, the Grand Paris. It's a kind of algae in the middle of the forest like this. What is yellow is fields, what is red is trees. We propose different system devolution, the transformations of existing building by mutation, in relationship with a sustainable system, because we propose a mutation has to begin tomorrow and to begin in a lot of spots in the same time and not progressively. That was how to use the roof of Paris, to look at the beauty of them. That was to research other modern typologies and towers in relationship with the typology of Paris. To work on the skylines of the city. To develop other typologies with the balconies, very horizontal boulevard with terraces, to give an horizontal scale in the middle of a lot of chaotic system. And the first proposal, that was to stop the development in the Pampa, outside, because it's so wide that on the sustainable point of view it's impossible. We propose also to develop the biomass, a lot to plant, I don't remember, 1 million of trees or something like this. And we propose to create 800 kilometers of public park, like a border of the metropolis. No. All of that is a park. Okay? And on this area, you can play. That is the border of the city, really, and the poorest buildings, houses are here. Here you have maraîchage, culture, you have gardens for the families, you have development of fields, you have, and every people could come to this park very close because it's linear. So you can, if you go outside, you are sure that you go and you arrive on this ribbon of grass and fields and playground for the kids and for the adults, so it's an inversion of the value also for the buildings around. The second proposal, that was to work on the identity of every road and paths at the scale of the metropolis, and to create a vocabulary, transversal vocabulary and equipment linked to the identity. The other work, that was the work we did on the transportation, and to work in a very precise analysis of cadences, of maillage, and not to create automatically big lines of subway more. To put the circulation on the other circulation existing also. Here, that is another idea about the mixity and the mutation. We have to transform every building existing can be used with another using. If you are in offices, it could be apartments. If you are in retail, it could be apartment of offices. You can have always a surdentification possible with for the little houses, for the pavilions. All of that creates a mutation, total mutation of the city. That is the mutation of the social housing grand ensemble, what is a big problem, social problem and political problem today in Paris. The government of the region disappears with elections. That was the same since 17 years. They never did a work on this neighborhood, and they are surprised to have terrorists inside. So it's totally the ghetto here we propose the mutation of the habitation also. Les grands ensembles, c'est ça. Propose to put immediately temporary architecture immediately, to have meeting spaces, to play music, sport, and so on. We propose also to ask to architect immediately temporary architecture with a spirit, different spirit for everyone. And we propose to complete this building with accessible terraces, accessible ground levels with retail and with activities. You propose that. That was 12 social proposals like this. That was a team pluridisciplinaire with a lot of people. In my team, at the end, we had more than 100 people who were working on that. The politicians never look at that after. They did the choice of one guy who was a minister of subway at one moment. He proposed another project with one line of subway, and nobody look at that after. There's a mutation of in a bar, one social housing building. With identification, of course. And that was necessary also to create second centers, 5 other centers in Paris, around parks and in the middle of existing cities, connecting to the city, to change completely the rhythm of the transportation people. They don't have to go at the same hour in the center of Paris. The system is a park in the middle, the transportation on the perimeter, existing city behind, and the link, a loop like this for everyone. That is a study also of the character, of the silhouette, and the different sides. That is a development during the time, the progression on the 5 sides. The port of Gennevilliers, the park of La Courneuve, the airport of Villacoublay. That is the different sides. La Courneuve. Les Ardoines. Industrial Patrimony. Villacoublay Airport. Former hospital. And to answer to the question of the cluster, that was more the creations of different equipment along the valleys of l'Yvette, la Bièvre, la Seine, and l'Orge. Very delicate situation because we analyze that. Why people comes to the cluster? Because generally the quality of life, the pleasure to work here, that is the first parameter. If you kill this parameter, people don't come. Il Seguin, the Seine, La Défense. Paris itself, We have to work to reveal the quality of the patrimony, of the passages, of the roof of Paris. Grey roofs are so fantastic, and you can do nothing above. Nobody can live on the roofs and can look at that. The big gardens and perspective. Tuileries now is not a Jardin à la Française. I don't know what is this. It's a remember of that. And the tower all around in the district of the perimeter, in Paris, historical Paris. They don't move that. They don't touch that. We propose a Chinese restaurant like bridges at the top. We propose to have other roofs. And also all the development of towers in the axis. And development of the silhouette of Paris linked to the flesh of Paris and the system of the character, heritage of character. The big balconies and perspective, new perspective and gardens. Bridges with this kind of terraces and gardens for university. And also to use the art like a material of transformation of the city at the big scale. The peripheric like an experience of lighting and artworks on all the lengths at the Island art at a huge scale, and not to cover the peripheric to disappear. And we know that 20 years later all the transportation will be totally silencious and clean. It's a wonderful movement to see that, and we don't need to cover that and to depend money for nothing. It is scenario done with artists. And the Tour Montparnasse, what is a scandal in France, because this tower is in the middle, every people look at that and find that awful. I propose to Frank Gehry to create an artwork at the top, like flowers, or like airs at the top of the tower. And the tower becomes this kind of thing during the night. And you can look at it like total transformation of identity. And the tower itself is a kind of circle. Using also the art at the scale of the river with Jenny Holzer, Grand Palais like the light in the Paris, and Daniel Buren to refine the scale of the parvis of Notre-Dame de Paris with contemporary work. The last big project was in Sweden. 3 bridges between the island of Stockholm. This system exists in the middle of Stockholm, and we'll stick it in the other places in the world to understand that. But Stockholm is something like this island in the city. And on this territory here, they put spaghettis of highways. That is the territories around. You see existing bridges, uninhabited bridges exist before. Look at in the history what was this links, what is today. And we look at what happens with uninhabited bridges, Ponte Vecchio, of course, Rialto, of course, and we propose to resolve the question by 3 uninhabited bridges. One to cover all the circulation, one with the habitation and with retail, another one like a big lounge at the scale of the city, another one with gardens like a big sport area, fitness area at the scale of the city. You see the 3 bridges here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. That is the work I did that with Mia Egg. who was my partner in this epoch. That is the 3 bridges. The new configuration. The écluse for the boats. And the new system. Continuity of the retail street, main retail street. And circulation underneath, like Ponte Vecchio. And the vision on the city. It was something like this, in the middle of Stockholm. That is for the boats. On the edge also the work, with also a big theater, musical theater in the middle. That was the program. And that was a connection with the city with big stairs like Plaza de España. In the middle, that is a big lounge. This one, like a big, with a lot of bars, videotheque, là. That is to cover the trains. A super ecological system with a glass roof and thermal insulation by blinds. And the third one with all the sport areas. And here, I try to understand. No, sorry. Yeah, I want to show the project, the winner project, done by Norman Foster, but it's a block and keeping for the rest of the highway system. So, with big questions like this, you can imagine other attitudes, other scales, other way. Transformation of the city could be very positive. Could be another dream, another way to live. Je me suis trompé là? Je parle dans le mauvais sens, c'est ça? Oui. But with small projects also, we can transform the city. That is the first social housing I did. I imagined that was, I said to the contractor that was a factory for mattress. And I designed a kind of factory. And I built 40 or 50% of areas more in a big loft. That was at the same time than Nemosus in the 80s. Nobody changed of apartment. You cannot find an apartment. It's impossible. As you see inside with beams, you can put mezzanine, kitchen. Nemosus, that was also a fight against small apartments. A large apartment is a beautiful apartment. And here, with the experimental system, we could have, for the first time, social housing in the city. And because that was experimental, we have not to respect the normative system. and we invent a mechano with technical materials, with industrial doors for storage. And we built 30 or 40% more of areas and volume. That was a kind of revolution in social housing in France, but with a lot of people against, because when you do something like this, they don't like, because if you do that, you prove that the system is not good. And when the new mayor arrived, he canceled that to rent the apartment in relationship with the size of the apartment, so all the people has to live. I fight with that. I show that in Venice after, and we won the fact that these apartments are always not totally social housing, but for very reasonable prices. You see the neighborhood. This is in Nîmes. This is the south of France. So every apartment is transversal on two sides, with big terraces, with big trees in the middle because that was existing trees, with public terrace and private terrace, with big duplex and triplex. You can open totally the apartment if you want, and people are free inside, of course. That is a museum in Périgueux, close of the city. That was a Roman city, Périgueux, before, and two Roman villas were very close of a temple, Roman temple, and I put just a roof. That was a patio in the middle, and the ceiling is just a plan of the two villas. And you feel the Roman ground under the city. All this attitude enriched the city, changed totally the meaning of what is a museum and what is a city when it is totally independent. That was a factory for the lamp of the miners in the mines, yes. Very beautiful architecture, industrial architecture, and we kept it totally with the same system. To do a museum linked to sustainable eating and very few money, and we develop also gardens linked to inhabitants, very free, with Michel Deville. In Mons also, after the mine disappears, we had to create scientific museums and to reuse the industrial archaeology with complementary buildings. Even with a little project, you know this one perhaps, the former building of for the beer, Moritz Beer in Barcelona. We use all the materials inside, existing architecture. We use also the advertising of the 20s to revisit the brand with colors and advertising. I suppose some of you know that. And with also these pyramids to look at the sky when you're inside. And in my native city, not native, but the city of my youngness, a church was gutted and demolished before the French Revolution in two parts. That is the medieval city around. That is and I propose to close the gutted church by two huge doors of 17 meters high in metal. on the market, on place of the market. L'architecture est un mélange de nostalgie et d'anticipation extrême. That is a sentence of Jean Baudrillard I paint on the doors. And I put only one glass for this system to, like ruins when the sun arrived totally inside. And I put a belvedere, a kind of lift, totally in glass, and you can go at the top of that, above the historical monument. It's a landmark, it's an historical monument. That was difficult to do that. And when you are here, you can see all the roof of Sarlat. And that is other. It's not exactly social housing because the strategy that was to put apartments just above the price of the social housing, to prove that some good people could come in bad neighborhood. That was something like this, and we did that with Mia Haig also, with Habiter Autrement. The first one is close of the station. It's transversal apartments. You see a little bit the system. The other one is close of a fantastic viaduct existing above the Garonne. And the apartments are... Oh, je me suis trompé. That is the apartment. You see the viaduct. We are close, so close of the viaduct. We put only duplex, triplex to look at the river and the viaduct. We'll see that. And this apartment is unbelievable because it's 30 meters long with terraces on each side and with gardens on the top, private gardens on the terrace on the top. And you can open the shutters only to look at the garden and not to look at the people in front. Yeah, I think this plan is significant. It's 30 meters long, a big living. You can have the facade at the border of the terrace or not. You can change the place. It turns like a train. And on the other side is a master bedroom. To give more spaces, to have pleasure to be in a place. That is the role of the architect. The role of the architect is not to admit every constraint if these constraints are negative. We are not here to build sadness. We have to fight. All these projects are fighting. That was too long. But I hope you understood a little bit. Examples of social urban regeneration. That is some ways for the regenerations.